all I have to say is, drizzle, drizzle.
Oh, yeah? Well, me and the Lord, we got an understanding. We're on a mission from God.
They shouldn't have given you Ashy Bloke's YouTube.
Cursed be the ground, for our sake. Both thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for us. For out of the ground we were taken, for the dust we are. And to the dust we shall return.
All right, good people. All right, good people. You Dusty Jermaines, you Ashy Jeffries, and you Dirtyfoot Jose's back in the building. Okay. They're doing this more frequently now with the black male studies. So evidently, our replay is helping because instead of getting one or two or an occasional one, we're getting almost like one a week. So more power to us and more power to them and more power to me because it helps me with my content. And I don't always have to come up with something. So that's extremely well. Okay, that's extremely good. Before we get started.
Does anyone want to get out?
For my financial guys, I want to show you a couple charts real quick, okay? For my financial guys, just before we really get started, because everybody always talks about silver and financials and bitcoins. I want to show you a couple charts, right? Okay. Let us start with the silver chart, okay? Right here. I don't know if you can see my arrow. The line down here is that is a double bottom, okay? It's a double bottom. Right there, okay? So there could be support. So right around here is a buying opportunity. Probably is a buying opportunity, okay? For all you silver stackers, okay? You've come way, way down. You've tested 70, 71, and right around the same range. Okay, this is a 4-hour chart, so that is probably a buying opportunity. That's a double bottom. Now, if it could extend, okay, now it could extend in a downward pattern. That's possible, okay. But anytime you see this pattern, okay, and this far apart, especially with these kind of moves, it's normally a buying opportunity, okay, because it's already tested that line. Now, if it tests this line again, right up here, right around, I would say, was that 82, 83, okay, and it bounces back, okay, then you might have a continuation. But I think it's going to test it and break through. If it breaks through it, then you probably have another run up, probably up to, I would say, your mid 90s, okay, possibly, okay, if the pattern holds, okay. The second one I want to show you is Bitcoin, okay. Bitcoin is getting, because the metals are doing so well, Bitcoin is getting pummeled right now, okay. Switch it to a daily first, okay. If we switch it to a daily, it looks even more extreme, okay. That's a long down. They're punishing the digitals right now. They're punishing the digital currencies right now because they're trying to push the dollar's trying to fight back. So they're punishing all the other assets. Bitcoin is the odd man out right now. So if you want to get in on Bitcoin, I think Bitcoin is down into the 60s. Bitcoin hasn't been into the 60s since the October 7th, 2023. Okay, with the beginning of the Gaza war. It's the last time Bitcoin's been down this low. So if you're an accumulator or a trader, I would say look to buy within this range. Within let me see if I can pull it down a little bit. Get into. I can't pull it up. I would say. Where's the bottom at? I would say, Bitcoin could get all the way down to the 50s. Okay. So if this trend holds, okay, I would look to buy Bitcoin down in the 50s. If the trend holds, okay. There's a vertical line right here. If it breaks the trend, fine. It probably go sideways or up. It's safe. It's safe if it breaks the trend. But I would look to buy it right down in the 50s, 50,000. Okay, if you're accumulating. Okay, and the last one, if I can find it, is the dollar. Okay. The whatever's going on with Iran right now and the silver and stuff like that, okay, they're trying to bolster the dollar. So I have a funny feeling that what's going on in Iran has less to do about the oil and less to do about nukes and much to do about threatening military action to get this dollar back on track. So dollar has crashed and has rebounded, okay? That was the gap that when the dollar gap down and bounced, and now it's above the gap again. It's on a trend. It's on an upward trend. So they're trying to rescue the dollar right now. So there's a lot of stuff going on for all you chart people. Okay, that's for you. Showed you 3 charts. I'm not going to show you gold or oil. Oil is also rebounded, but that is a treat. That's a freebie. That's a Patreon freebie for all my chart people. Look at those 3, okay? Now, let's welcome some people and let's get started. That is a Patreon freebie, okay? Shannon Green batting first. What's going on? St. Cyr. St. Cyr's in the lineup, batting second. Melly going up. What's going on, man? Batting third. Jesse, clean up. Bring him home, okay? Ahmed, what's going on? Pirate broadcaster. There, my Apple. Where you been, girl? You know I missed them lips, girl. Can't tell you. Can't tell you. I do. Some people I don't even like to see talk. She's one of them. I have to look away when Toya talks for obvious reasons. Sexy Silk, what's going on? Code Red, what's going on? That's Instant Media, what's going on? You're going to be covering the report yourself? I might have to do it again because I love academics disagree, okay? I'm not an academic, but some things I agree with him, some things I don't, okay? And that's going to come up. Snowman, what's up? He's in the bullpen. Snowman, you should be in on this WNBA contract negotiations, man. It's wild. Little Maple Leaf, what's going on? Adric, what's up? What it be like? Adric, it is freaking 82 degrees here, man. It's hot as hell. Please send them some snow. We need some snow. We need some cool. We need about a 20-degree day, one day. I don't want it all week, just one day to cool this shit off, man. It's hot as hell. It's freaking summertime here, man. It's 60 degrees at night. That's how bad it is. Okay. AHG, what's going on? Eddie? Oh, Eddie's punching the clock. Dr. Goodbar, what's going on? Now that would make a good couple. Okay, I think Toya and Dr. Dunbar would make a lovely couple. What y'all think? Give her a shot, Doc. She can make you happy. What's going on, Lavarus? What's going on? How's the study going, man? You should have a job by now, Lavarus. How's the job search going? A gator's in the water. I heard that. Okay, hold on.
If that water wet, it's got gators in it.
Reminds me of my aunt. I got an aunt in Louisiana, sounds just like her, and looks just like her with them green eyes. Yeah. So, Hurricane Ja, what's going on? Gabar, what's going on? Ashy to Ashy, Dusty to Dusty. I heard that. Paul. Oh, really? You got my notification. Oh, YouTube is smiling on me today. B-Row, what's going on? Shannon Green, what's happening? Barry Hamilton. KG Thoughts, what's going on? You've actually talked to Moynihan's son before. Okay, cool, man. You ought to, enlighten us. The Yo, what's going on? W. Brizzled, what's going on? Delaying watching Passport OG's later to see what's up over here. Okay. He wouldn't mind. H&F, what's going on? Scorpion Black, what's going on? SNL says hits the like button. Okay. The Captain, what's going on? Melly Mel, what's happening? Ronan, what's up, Ronan? Where you been, man? No Fear. Barry Hamilton, what's going on? W. Brizzle. Panda Man, what's up? What up, BGS in chat? Have you heard about AI bots that have built their own social network and have been keeping tabs on us humans? I'm not surprised. Okay, that has been said in the background for years. They have been saying that since like 2015. I get, well, I don't get them anymore. I used to get AI bots texting me all the time, man. I know no way a random mid-20s white girl with blue eyes and blonde hair is going to be texting me out of nowhere. I know it's a bot, okay? And then when you something I don't know you, they keep saying, well, what's your name? And you say, you ain't interested in me. You don't even know me, okay? You don't even know me. You're a bot. Go away. Michael, what's going on? I said I'm planning on buying in Ecuador. Okay, Ecuador. Why Ecuador? I don't think it's cooked. I think it's Bitcoin is very. Got to remember, Bitcoin is very volatile. So um, at some point, when I know people want to buy and hold, but at some point, man, take your profit at the top. You don't have 10%, 15%, man, or even 30%, man. Sell it off and bring in your profits, stay to the side. So when Bitcoin does its dip like it's doing right now, okay, this is the time you take your profits and buy back in. If you really believe in Bitcoin, this is the time you take your profits and buy back in. My Bitcoin and silver took a hard hit. Well, silver is going to come back. I wouldn't worry about silver, okay? Um, Bitcoin, I remember I was telling people when it was up to like 120, hey man, sell some of it. I remember telling Doc, even in the 90s, man, sell some of that and hold it to the sides. Sell off some coins, hold it to the side. If you had done that, then you'd be buying it at 50, at 60, 50, okay? This is the time for the guys that took profit to buy back in. But I'm a trader. Don't listen to me. If you're a stacker and a buy and holder, I'm not the guy to listen to. Okay. When I give financial advice, I'm talking about trading. I look at chart patterns. I look at buying opportunities and stuff like that. I look at sell and buy. I'm a trader. So listen to me. Got to understand that's where I come from. Indigo Flow, Prime, 2 Trill, what's going on? Mr. J. Matt, Prince, Mr. Toolins, what's going on? Dusty Jones, what up? Hey Neil, what's going on? The Black Toxic, what's happening? Most Fet, what's going on? Chance, what's going on? Resurrection Minds, what's going on? Resurrect Minds, what's going on? You know not what you asked for the cold. I said one day. I didn't say a month. One day, cool things off. One day, cause it's hot as hell, man. It's been like yesterday was like 80, 88. It's 88 degrees. It was full on summer yesterday. So it was so hot, man. I didn't want to do. I didn't want to do a show. That's why I didn't do a show yesterday. It was too hot. Ninja Person, what's going on? Very little, what's happening? You gonna take a retake? Okay. Well, you should ace it, man. Get your flashcards out, man. I heard it's been brutal, man. I heard y'all getting pounded, man. We don't know. I mean, Volcker makes sense. Okay, I don't think you're gonna get a Volcker because I don't think the United States can stand a Volcker, and and uh, and Trump is not Jimmy Carter. So Trump is not going to stand for uh, 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 double-digit interest rates right now. He's not. So I doubt it. If that was the case, if that was the case, why would you get rid of Powell? Powell would have done that. Powell is closer to Volcker than I think Marsh is. It's freezing in Detroit. Well, man, try living through 82 degrees in the wintertime, man. It's hot. It's hot as hell. Dusty for life. Okay. LAXT, what's going on? Gundam, what's going on? Johnny Anderson, what's going on? Sam C, what's going on, Sam? Where you been? Oh yeah. That was me going back and forth with our resident gynocrat, May. King Pix, what's going on? Michael, what's happening? Chance, Macron, Macron. Is it macaroni or Macron? The video, yeah, Fires man, I cracked up when I saw that. And I had to add the dude. I had to add the one with the dude running off, man, during dinner. And she thought she had it, man. She was tearing her to go. She was full, and she thought she had it, man. She thought she had a meal for 2 days, man. And she saw Lamont running off. Didn't pay the tab. Cracked up. I'm listening. What's going on? Now, paper silver is manipulated. So, but the thing is, that's the only thing they have to hold on. They're trying to talk it down. But I think that Venezuela affair bought them time. That's all it did. You complain about 60 degrees being hot while we're waiting on our random 80-degree day in Chicago. Is killing me. Man, it's 81. It's 81 degrees right now, man. I'm sweating. I'm supposed to sweat during the winter. Afro Merchant, what's going on? Jim, what's going on? Dave Tao, what's going on? Emmanuel Emmanuel Sapu, what's going on? Player one, Lionel, what's going on? Inspirational Truths, what's going on? Oh, it's Macron. Okay, Macron. Okay. Very Little, what's going on? Oh, Doc. Oh, okay. I got to call Doc. Okay. I didn't know he was in surgery. He usually texts me when something like that's going on. I've got to call him. Um, Eminem ain't gonna like this. Okay. Detroit, man, it's fine in Detroit. 5 degrees ain't shit. Snow Warrior King. I heard that. Winter's coming. I see. You rather sweet. You rather sweat than freeze. Okay. I didn't. I don't want. I didn't say forever. I said one day. Yeah. If you're holding physical silver, do not sell it. Okay. If you're holding silver, do not sell it. Okay. Hold on to it. Domain expansion, Second Amendment. Ghost Rider, what's happening? Well, he has a worldview. So he's an academic. So the black academics have a different worldview on Moynihan. Okay, I'm not a black academic. Okay, I'm a structural realist. So, well, you in the man, you in the Nordic Europe, man. So you're buried deep in snow and ice, man. In fact, the sun ain't gonna come out until March. Big Mo say 21 degrees. Okay, right now upstate New York, last week was 3. I don't think we was built for this cold. Y'all niggers want to live there, man. Anyhow, let's go ahead and get started, man. Let's dive in on Dr. Curry's evaluation on the Moynihan report. Okay, some things I agree with, some things I don't. Okay, but that will become evident. We will give it a 1.25. Even though Dr. Curry doesn't talk slow. So, Age Machine says this will be good. Winter Soldier chip jamming, working like champ. Double X is hiding their secrets in debts from me, expecting me to jump in when rent is due. Okay, hey, well, you know what? Um, you're gonna get that call. I'm in a bind, Nate. Detroit says I'd rather stay in the cold than dealing with 60 degrees. I'd be sweating like Mark Henry. Nah, 20 degrees is fine, man. I don't want to go down to 3. I can't handle that. But 20 degrees is fine. For a day or two. Oh, Nameless is in the house? Where you been, Nameless? All this crap going on, Nameless, and all this crap going on, and you've been missing, okay? You got all this crap going on around the world. Well, I know they got you busy, man. I know Hex and company got you busy.
During his State of the Union address on January 8, 1964, President Lyndon Baines Johnson proposed legislation that would expand the federal government's role in education and healthcare and poverty reduction strategies. This legislation came to be known as the War on Poverty, which was seen.
And I know they've been keeping you busy, man. So you don't have to say much. And hey, if you hear from Lindy, man, tell Lindy to holler at me, okay?
As the spiritual successor to Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal enacted to counter the mass unemployment, homelessness, and social upheaval of the Great Depression. In that inaugural address, Johnson stated, "Our aim is not only to relieve the system of poverty, but to cure it, and above all, to prevent it." One of the major battlegrounds of that war was alleviating chronic poverty in Black American communities. And one of the guiding battle plans of that fight was a government study officially titled The Negro Family, The Case for National Action, written in 1965 by then Assistant Secretary of Labor Daniel Patrick Moynihan. That study came to be known as the Moynihan Report. The effect of the war on poverty on Black communities was the effective removal of Black males from the home, creating a climate of hostility to Black men by Black women, a lack of male mentorship for Black children, and the disruption of the overall Black community. And I wanted to unpack some of these issues as to why we got here with Professor Tommy J. Curry. Most of you know Professor Tommy J. Curry is one of the seminal authors of Black Male Studies. He is the MPH Personal Chair of Africana Philosophy of Black Male Studies, Department of Philosophy at the University of Edinburgh School of Philosophy, Psychology and Language Sciences. And he is most known for being the author of the book The Man Not: Race, Class, Genre, and the Dilemmas of Black Manhood, winner of the 2018 American Book Award, and a foundational text in the field of Black Male Studies. Professor Curry, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. Thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedule to have this conversation. I always appreciate it when you're able to come through.
No, I always appreciate the invitation, brother.
All right, so let's get right into it. How did this legislation that was supposed to remedy the conditions in Black America open the door for them to get worse?
Well, the thing that a lot of people don't understand about the Moynihan report is that it is the product of decades of research on Black communities. So what Daniel P. Moynihan does in his report on the Negro family is actually try to accumulate the cutting edge research on the Black American personality. So the report centers on two major aspects of Black families and Black communities. The first is that discrimination in the United States has psychological effects on Black people.
And that is the first statement that came out in the Moynihan report, and women always skip over that. The first 2-3 paragraphs are about the inhuman treatment that Black people have went through. That's the first 3 paragraphs. But all the women skip over that. Okay, that's what he's pointing out. That is the beginning thesis of the whole Moynihan report. Okay, that Black people have been damaged.
He largely relies on the work of Mitchell and what later became known as the marshmallow test to measure delayed gratification, suggesting that because Black men didn't have the same kind of economic and social opportunities that other groups have had, especially poor Black men, that they couldn't delay gratification. So they didn't see the benefits of pursuing education like their Black female counterpart.
Partially right. Okay, delayed gratification is partially right. Okay. Also, your women didn't see you the same. The women didn't see you the same. And one thing you have to say about Moynihan, I'm gonna let the doctor run, is Moynihan was tasked with integrating. Okay, integrating Black families into white families. Okay, the whole point of spending all that money and giving Black women welfare and giving Black kids education and mixing the school is to integrate the Black family and turn them into white families, or what they call American families. Okay, it wasn't there to repair them as a group and let them go off independently. No, he was there to say, that was John. He was tasked with, how do we integrate these people into the family of America? That's what civil rights was about. That's why they call it what, integration. Okay, in fact, Moynihan, if you read down toward the end of his thesis, he talks about assimilating Black people into the American values. In other words, turning a Black family into the standardized American white family. Okay? People forget that.
The second thing that I think, and this is what I see people debating more on social media, is this question of the matriarchal family or the female-led household.
The everyday Muslim, did you ever read the Moynihan report? Did you read it? I'm saying that's the whole thing. Everybody's talking about it, but did you read it? Did you read the Moynihan report? I did a whole series. I think I did 11 or 12 videos on the Moynihan report. Okay, and I read through the whole document. Did you actually? It's only 67 pages. Did you read the report itself?
Now, that piece becomes a little bit more difficult because it's
not the whole thing. So why are you asking questions? I'm telling you what it is because I actually did a report on it. Okay, I'm telling you. If you go to the end of the Moynihan report, when he talked about assimilating the Black family into the family of Americas. Okay, he used assimilation. Talks about it. Go to the end of the report.
Highly politicized argument in the black community. Most black feminists and pop culture kind of pundits articulate the Moynihan report as saying that because the black community is matriarchal, that's responsible for the failures of the black race in the United States. And they see it as scapegoating black women for the failures of the race, where patriarchy becomes the solution, so to speak. That's a half truth, right? So the debates over the Moynihan report actually failed to trace out the assumptions of Moynihan. And what ends up happening is we have kind of an argument about identity politics rather than the social science that he was actually using. So what Moynihan was saying, and this is on the basis of people like John Dollard and Thomas Pettigrew.
But the thing is, he keeps mentioning Dollard and Pettigrew, okay? Which I, which I understand because they're unknown. But the thing is, he did mention Pettigrew. But the thing is, he doesn't mention Clark. Clark was his friend, okay? Clark was his friend, okay? Clark was in New York with him. Clark was a dog test. Clark ran a black male boys educational system. Okay, Clark was his friend, and he named the paper after Frazier's book, The Negro Family. But he keeps mentioning those two white people. Okay, instead of highlighting the black people that the report was actually based on. Okay, in fact, right in the middle of it, that's why you think Moynihan used the tangle of pathology. Okay, that's Kenneth Clark's title. That's Kenneth Clark's main thesis of his book. Okay, and Clark had just written the book, published the book just before the report. Come on now.
Was that discrimination was so severe for black men that it eliminated any ability for them to act.
Most black academics do not like Clark. Okay, and Clark had words for a lot of black academics. He really did. Okay, he really did. He, Clark said the black academics actually betrayed black people.
Actually be heads of households, right? So, say for example, like if you actually read the Moynihan report, he constantly citing Thomas Pettigrew's book, A Profile of the Negro American, and in that book, Thomas Pettigrew actually argues that employment discrimination has made it more difficult for poorly educated black men to get secure employment than poorly educated black women. So,
guess who else said that? Guess who else said that? W. E. Du Bois in the Negro in the Philadelphia Negro said the exact same thing. Okay, so did Frazier. It wasn't just Pettigrew. Frazier said Du Bois said this shit in the Philadelphia Negro back in the 1890s. Exact same thing. Okay. So did what's her name? Even though Pauli Murray's a feminist, she said the exact same thing in the 40s. Okay, this ain't new.
the effect of that was that poor black men did not have the ability to form typical American households where they were the head of household and allowed for stable family units.
Black women said the same thing.
This is the same thing that E. Franklin Frazier discussed when he was studying black families, that black men would actually have to leave cities to find employment elsewhere, and this would create the absence of the father figure, right? Now, Thomas Pettigrew didn't pull this out of thin air. He didn't just make it up. He actually got it from a white boy named John Dollard. He was educated at the University of Chicago, and in the early 1930s, he was a professor at Yale University. Now, he wrote a book called Casting Class in a Southern Town. And if you'd allow me, I'd like to just read a quote from this because
Please.
I think it really contextualizes how much people misunderstand and misrepresent what's going on in the Moynihan Report for their own ideas. Okay. So Dollard actually says this. He says, look, when Jim Crow made its appearance towards the end of the 19th century, it may be speculated that it was the Negro male who was most humiliated thereby. The male was most likely to use public facilities, which rapidly became segregated once the process began. And just as important, segregation and the submissiveness it exacts is surely more destructive to the male than the female personality. So keeping the Negro in his place can be translated as keeping the Negro male in his place. The female was not a threat to anyone. Unquestionably, those events worked against the emergence of a strong father figure, right? So when we're looking at the Moynihan report, we have to understand that the claims about the matriarchal household does not just appear. Like Moynihan is not making this statement just out of thin air, right? He's saying that this happens because the basis of black people in the United States come about because the system of segregation has deliberately targeted black men.
Exactly. That is very true. Okay, Moynihan said it. Frazier said it. Du Bois said it. Okay. Clark said it. Okay.
Now, what's important is that John Dollard makes the exact same claim back in the 1930s. Dollard fundamentally believes that to be a black man in Jim Crow was about
I haven't done a insight on the black bourgeoisie. So maybe that's coming.
making sure that black men could not have any kind of economic potential, right? And to make sure that black men could not intermarry. So his whole book is about how Jim Crow segregation was about making sure black men knew their inferior position, whereas black women, because white men had unfettered access to them sexually, could walk across the line, the color line more freely.
Well, they could, but also guess who worked in the house for white people? Okay, black women have always had unfettered access to the big house. Okay, they always have. That's not new. Got nothing with them walking across the line having unfettered access to them sexually. That goes all the way back to slavery.
So whereas a white man can have sex and give gifts to to black women, if a black man even thought about looking at a white woman or having a sexual desire for her, he was immediately lynched. Right. So we have to understand that Monahan is building from a history of white sociology that's relying on people like Pettigrew, people like John Dollard, and even people like Mitchell. Because Mitchell's argument again was that because black men could not see the long gains of education, that you would never be able.
I don't, the thing is, I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. Okay. But all the scholars I read talked about Moynihan and where he got his ideas from. Uh, they always point back to Frazier and always point back to Clark, to Kenneth Clark. Okay, so um, I've read Pettigrew. Okay, some of Pettigrew. Okay, there's a couple other white scholars. The best book on the Moynihan report and Moynihan during that time is "Freedom Is Not Enough" by Patterson. Went through the whole, named all the authors and all every place he pulled it from. Okay, if you ever really want to know about the Moynihan report and Moynihan, read Patterson's book, James Patterson's book, "Freedom Is Not Enough."
Able to have black men make long-term sacrifices, or short-term sacrifices, excuse me, for long-term gains. So the Monahan report talks about female-headed households, but only insofar as they're a product. And this is what's constantly missing from the discussion because it's politicized. Only insofar as they are a product of black men, of lower-class black men specifically, being discriminated against throughout Jim Crowism. Right? He doesn't believe that this is the case for middle class black households, which is why I find it ironic that you have a bunch of academics politicizing the Moynihan report about black female led households when he's very specifically talking about poor black people. Now the question of patriarchy that black feminists continue to harp on it becomes somewhat anachronistic in this sense, right? Because it's aspirational. There were no black patriarchs during this period of time. The whole Moynihan report, as well as John Dolan and Thomas Pettigrew, which is constantly cited in it, are saying that listen, segregation and racism was so bad that poor black men did not have the ability to be patriarchs or lead households. Remember, I spoke about this earlier last year when we discussed domestic violence. One of the things that was well thought during this period of time in the 1960s.
Even in upper class black people, okay, even upper class black people, okay, black males did not have control over their children the same way. Okay, you got to pay. You got to pay. If that black female wanted that black man arrested, she could. I don't care how much money he had. So even then, if you go back and you read the black bourgeoisie, the black women ran that shit, man. Black women actually ran that shit. Okay. The black female intelligentsia actually ran that shit. even amongst the upper classes.
By University of Chicago educated sociologists. And I'm thinking here, of course, about LeBeau's book, Tally's Corner, is that poor black men did not deserve the respect of their spouses, right? So Thomas Pettigrew, for instance, says that black women actually resented black men who were unable to care for their family, which was more typical of bourgeois family arrangements and even middle class black family arrangements, right? You have people like LeBeau saying the same thing, where he gives the account of a woman who beats her husband because she didn't think he was a real man. He couldn't provide for her. He couldn't lead the household.
And Polly Murray talked about uh, uh, when she used to apply to white colleges, right? Okay, and she talked about the time when an elite black man applied to go to uh, a post grad at the University of North Carolina. He applied and she applied, right? Okay, they denied her, but they killed him. They denied her, but they killed him. Okay. To say that the elite black people did not face the same crap, bunk, okay? It wasn't just poor black people.
So throughout white sociology, you've always had this emphasis on what we would now call the gender wars between black men and black women. But those things don't start as the product of a political difference in the 1960s. These ideas are manifested throughout the 20th century when you have white sociologists going all the way back to Hannah Arendt, who wrote Soul Side, saying that because black men were not real men, and this is the terminology they use, black women demonstrated hostility and lack of respect for them. So this, and I'm not saying that that's true, because remember, this is from the lens of white researchers. But what I'm saying is that what's happening in social media, what's happening over Twitter, what's even happened in the academy is you've taken one particular interpretation of the Moynihan report, and that becomes your Cliff Notes version for the test. You don't go back and read Thomas Pettigrew. You're not reading Mitchell's arguments on delayed gratification. You're not reading Dollard, and you're saying, oh, this is all about the female-led household. But you've missed the whole part where these white sociologists are arguing, well, Jim Crow and economic discrimination is decimating black men's ability to even find work.
And basically it reshaped the whole the whole slavery and Jim Crow and a black man's ability to find work. Okay, and elevate himself. Black men can find work. It's just not that kind of work, especially in urban areas. Okay, and how it shaped the black family.
So they can't be productive members within the household. And then they psychologize them, saying that because they can't contribute economically, the black woman disrespects them and attacks them, right? So going so far as people like Wolfgang and Farah Cooney saying that black women kill and beat black men within their household because of this dynamic. And black men don't have any incentive to complete education. So whereas black women complete education and become more degreed, black men turn away, which is why Moynihan says they should join, say, the army or things of that. Because
no, that's not what Moynihan said. Okay. Now that is bullshit. That's not what Moynihan said. That's not what Moynihan said. Moynihan said they didn't have a so patriarchal or a masculine presence. He thought that the black family was too feminized, and the schools they went to was too feminized. And what Moynihan actually called for, the same thing that Clark called for, is the separation of males from black females. Okay, in other words, you have this, this de facto or this created matriarchy that black males have to grow up in, and they've been socialized in. Okay, and if you get them out of it and put them in their own school system, their own male-centered, male-dominated area, it would actually improve their mindset. But he left that out. Moynihan, yes, he said it in the document, but they leave that out. And guess what? If you guess what? When they separate the boys from the girls in the black community, guess what happens? The boys do better. The boys actually go to college. They actually do better. That's why he said put them. That's why Moynihan wanted them to actually go to the military. Okay. In other words, they were too feminized in the black family. Get them out of the black family. Get them away from black women. Put them in an all male environment where they could actually get around quote unquote men, white men or other men in an all masculine environment to actually change the mindset of these boys and these men. That's what he said. I agree. They didn't want to look like they were responsible for exacerbating the situation, so along with benign neglect shortly after the report was released, that it was to blame black men themselves. Benign neglect was Nixon's reaction to the civil rights movement and the riots. You got to remember, Nixon was actually came up during the '68 riots. Man, remember the Democratic riots with the white people, anti-war. So Nixon went after not only the benign neglect, but also white feminism actually appropriated, actually squashed the baby boomers movements amongst the men. Feminism for the white boys and benign neglect for the black folks. Okay, for the black men. I said, what's interesting is many black nationalist organizations like the Nation were already trying to course correct and start boys on. Yeah, they were. They were because Clark said that was a problem. Okay, Moynihan said that was a problem. Okay, it had been isolated.
They don't see, they can't delay gratification and see the long term benefits of pursuing a college degree. Now, that complexity is lost. And what ends up happening is we're having fights with each other about racist social science that neither one of us authored. Right? Black male sociologists like Robert Staples didn't support the Moynihan report. He didn't believe that you could reduce family organization to the single cause of black people's economic and political failures. He
Got to remember, the Moynihan report was not a book. It was a 67-page internal document. Okay, Robert Staples and them do not go to the Kerner Commission. Okay, the Kerner Commission was a 700-page book that none of them talk about, and all the stuff that Moynihan talked about in the Moynihan report, he glanced about. The Kerner Commission actually came out and documented all that shit, but none of them will actually touch the Kerner Commission. I would love for Dr. Curry to talk about the Kerner Commission. Okay. Nobody talks about. None of your academics even mention the Kerner Commission. There's two books they don't mention, right? Okay, that the black academia don't never mentions, right? Okay, is the Negro Family United States, or three. Negro Family United States, Clark's book, Dark Ghetto, and also the Kerner Commission. They never talk about those books, ever. Ever. They skip right over them. Just like they don't talk about Pauli Murray and Eleanor Roosevelt. They skip right over that. A lot of stuff they skip over. They glance at it and they drop it and run. I don't blame them. You're in a female dominated environment when you're in academia. It is what it is, especially nowadays. Okay, it's a female feminist dominated academy, and for black men, it's especially so. Okay, especially nowadays, it's a very black female dominated academy. So I don't blame them.
thought white supremacy and racism was responsible for that. You have numerous people, like even Dorothy Hyatt, who published or who was quoting the report to Roosevelt before the Moynihan report, which even talks about the discrimination of black men and the dehumanization and targeting of black men, and how part of the civil rights gains is to give black men respect because they've been dehumanized. And people, now she, of course, she was middle class. She had a very Christian and nuclear family outlook, but the conversation that black people are attending to the specific discrimination and targeting of black men was nothing that was gender related. It was what the race thought during this period of time, given the science. So it's a misrepresentation that's completely anachronistic to attack each other. And I see this on social media, black people to attack each other for a report that they didn't author, and most people certainly don't understand.
I want to go through the key conclusions of the Moynihan report. It's a very comprehensive study, but there are 4 key conclusions. I'm going to go through the first 2 here. The Moynihan report said that the condition of the black community and the economic condition of the black community came down to 4 key things. The first was the legacy of slavery and racism. The report emphasized that historical oppression, particularly slavery and systemic racism, disrupted traditional family structures and continued to affect the social and economic stability of African American families. The second one was family structure, as you mentioned before, was central to understanding black poverty. The Moynihan report argued that the high rate of single mother households in the black community was a central factor contributing to poverty, social disorganization, and inequality. He claimed that what he coined a tangle of pathology had developed, rooted in the breakdown of the nuclear family.
Yeah, but where did the tangle of pathology come from? Okay, he quoted it. Where did it come from? But they will never mention Clark's name.
Now, I just want to stop at those 2 points right there, because nothing in either one of those points is anything inherently that says that anything about black women or black mothers is inherently bad. This is just laying out the conditions for why things are the way they are. So my question to you is, how did the Moynihan report get interpreted through the decades as being
Okay, many point me to it because I've never heard Dr. Curry mention Kenneth Clark. I've never heard Dr. Curry mention Kenneth Clark. Okay.
anti-black women?
Well, I mean, I think there's a few things because I do believe the Moynihan report is anti-black, right?
Why is God? Okay. Anyway. Okay. Anyway. Well, that's his opinion. I'll leave it alone.
The problem is that the culture of poverty arguments that are starting by people like Oscar Lewis presuppose that there are certain cultural arrangements that differ from the white race. That means that certain racial groups are not viable, right? So think of it like this. Descriptively, you're right. Those things don't sound like anything controversial. But if you understand the science behind it, you would say, okay, black people.
That's the world where he comes from. The Moynihan report is anti-black. Okay. Instead of it being neutral. Okay. And Moynihan said later on, basically, if he had known how bad that the black family was going to get, he'd have kept his mouth shut. The thing is, was Moynihan wrong? Was Moynihan wrong? They keep saying Moynihan, but was he wrong?
Live in a cultural arrangement where poverty, delayed gratification, or the inability to delay gratification, and deviance grow, because that's what these cultural poverty theorists were arguing. Okay, the assumption behind that, though, right, that we have a different configuration of family that's responsible for us not progressing politically, completely overlooks the role that contemporary racism have. Because remember, Pettigrew saying, look, black men suffer from economic discrimination that produces many of these psychological attitudes where they don't value education. But that's not true. Black men fought against segregation. They fought for education. So you're still dealing with these very kind of white-centered views of black deficiency and deficit. And I think that's where the issue comes in. Now, listen, the problem that I think we are dealing with today is because we have one particular interpretation of this story, which comes dominantly from black feminism. So black feminists look at that and say, you're saying that the pathology and downfall of the race is the fault of black women. And to a certain extent, Moynihan, Pettigrew, et cetera, do make that claim. But the claim is on a cultural basis that because black women are black-led households, are black households are led by black women. This produces deviance. It produces homosexuality, according to these racist theories, and it produces criminality. Right? That's what's happening during this period of time. But they exclude the fact that black men are structurally isolated as well. It's not the call for patriarchy on behalf of black men. It's the same kind of deficit theories that the people have been writing about since the 1920s concerning black communities. And that's what's being isolated, right? That's what's being forgotten. Black feminism is using it as a political point, where in reality, it's an anti-black point that ridicules the position that black men have historically been put in because they're not white men.
What? Okay. Anyway. Okay. And so with that, how have we improved since then? Okay.
I just find it interesting that first of all, the Moynihan report is very comprehensive, like I said, and it takes a lot of time to sit down and actually read through everything and basically to interpret it. I'm just fascinated by the fact that that one particular part of the report and part of its conclusions was taken completely out of context, or all these different points of view were added to it without anybody really engaging with the text itself.
Well, but I mean, listen, this is what happens to the academy, right? I mean, is Moynihan comprehensive? Certainly for its time in the 1960s, it was a comprehensive document based on white social science, okay? But what I'm trying to highlight, though, is that we're using a document that most black sociologists disagree with, right? Like, sure, we know that single mother households tend to be poor, but that's because there's one person in it. It's not because of the unique condition or pathology of black women. Moynihan presupposed that black culture, because it was affected by segregation and racism, was fundamentally lacking. It was deficient in some way. And then he created this different model saying, well, we need to repair it by making it more in line with white families.
Okay. Moynihan was tasked with what? Integrating, okay? And let's go back to the Moynihan Conference of 1890. Integrating the black family into the rest of America, so that would be in sync with America. Guess what? Guess what we fought for in the 1960s? Okay. Guess what the riots were? Because we couldn't move into the white suburbs. And guess who the biggest people that actually wanted to integrate into the white suburbs? Integrate into whiteness. Okay. The black academia, the black bourgeoisie. Wasn't just him. Okay. Admixture is normal. What did you guys ask for? We actually wanted to go to white schools. I said no. All metric single parent homes where the parent is father are objectively better with better outcomes. Okay. Anyway, you know. Black academics and the Moynihan report, man, sometimes set my teeth on edge. What grounds do they disagree with it is because they think that the Moynihan report is because it came from a white liberal, okay, that is inherently racist. It's inherently anti-black. And you're taking it from notice he mentions mostly white liberal talking points and white liberals' point of view. Okay, even though Clark and Moynihan were best friends. Okay, most of Moynihan's ideas of the black male and the black family came from Kenneth Clark. That's his friend. So if he wants to talk about the black family, who's the first person he's going to call? It's not going to be Pettigrew. It's going to be Kenneth Clark, his contemporary. That's like the tangle of pathologies in there. If you read Dark Ghetto, all this stuff that Moynihan talks about will come out. Okay. Continuing.
Structures. The background of that, however, is the attack, decimation, and humiliation of black men, because they were the ones that were excluded in a Jim Crow society from being productive members of society. That's why people like Moynihan actually say, listen, to keep the Negro in his place, right, it's actually meant to keep the black man in his place. So what we've done, as usual, is miss the fact that black men have been targeted in a very specific.
He said that. Okay. Moynihan said that.
And deliberate way, and that this has a direct effect on the outcomes for the community at large. We've ignored the political economy of the doctrine and focused on the identity politics of the doctrine.
Let's get into the practice of poverty legislation. Social programs under the War on Poverty were, for the most part, administered by white liberals, and that administration was in many cases disruptive to the potential of black men and black women to even create stable families. In many cities like Chicago and Oakland and other places, black single mothers were penalized if social workers found evidence of an adult.
Okay. This is what I get sick of. Okay? And these are academics, okay? If I can find this shit, they can find this shit, okay? AFDC was a white socialist program, okay? Consolidated by the federal government in 1935 during the Depression. For who? White women. Okay, black women, for the most part, until the late 1950s, did not get welfare, for the most part. Now you have cities like New York and Memphis, maybe that on a local level could get housing and a bit of welfare. Okay, but thing is, for the most part, for the federal welfare, okay, black women did not get it until the late 1950s under civil rights. And guess who asked for it? Black women asked for that shit. Okay, they protested for that shit. Okay, that's what it was actually AFDC and welfare that actually triggered the Moynihan report in the first place. Because Moynihan was tasked in bringing down welfare, right? Because it costing the federal government too much, right? And guess what he said? Okay, if you give black men jobs to take care of their families, just like white men, okay? Because they assume that if you do the same thing to the black family that you do to the white family, you get the same result. Which triggered the Moynihan report, okay? What he found out, that's like nobody goes back to Moynihan scissors about black male employment or black male unemployment going down and welfare going up. Nobody talks about that, okay? Well, how come every other group, okay, when the men get jobs, welfare goes down? When black women got welfare, it didn't matter, okay? It didn't matter. Well, Dr. Got to remember, Dr. Curry, Clark was talking about the first talk about a black ghetto being an internal colony, but that's, Dr. Curry, you got to remember he's an academic. You got to remember how he's educated. No, he's Dr. Curry's a millennial, if I'm not mistaken. Is he a millennial? I think he's a millennial. So he's got a millennial feminist framework. Okay, even though he steps outside of it, he battles against them. But the thing is, it's still coming from that framework. Okay, to him, Staples, Robert Staples, all these people are basically, and their opinions are superior to everybody else's. Okay. And I like Robert Staples, but guess what? Robert Staples, I think he's a Marxist, but I like Staples. But the thing is that, guess what? Facts are facts. In fact, up at the South, up until I think the 1960s, okay, black women were not allowed to have welfare until the federal government and civil rights made them give black women welfare. Okay, and the man in the house rule, was implemented by who? Was actually implemented by FDR for white women. That's how come getting rid of the man in the house rule, federally by the Supreme Court, that was a white woman. That was not a black woman. Actually went to the Supreme Court for that shit. Okay, the man in the house rule said, and if you read there's a book called the child support system, written by I think her name is it Gilly, okay. She wrote it and wrote a whole 500-page book about this shit, man. And basically, to get welfare, okay, there's two conditions you could get welfare, okay. Obviously, is to be widowed, okay, under FDC or AFDC. You have to be widowed. And the second hand, you have to be abandoned, right? Because in 1935, guess what the white men did? They left the family to go find jobs, and sometimes they did not come back. So you had all these white single mothers that were piling up. That's how come AFDC is under what? The Social Security laws, okay? AFDC is a Title IV, which is Social Security, is because AFDC was a bridge until the woman could get the man's Social Security. But if she had a man and she had support, then the government was not going to step in. So that's where the man in the house rule came from. In other words, for a black woman to get child support, okay, back then, okay, she had to prove two things. She had to prove that either one, he was dead and have a death certificate, or she had to prove that he was abandoned. She was actually abandoned. Those are the only two ways she can get AFDC. So the man in the house rule was not targeted at black women. Now, they might have used it like they normally do, use the law against black women, okay? But guess what? It was not targeted at black women. It was actually targeted at white men and white women, okay? So most of that fell under because Thaddeus Stevens died. I think we would be living in a different America right now. Possibly, okay? So the radical Republicans for a few years tried to grant black people rights, but the strength of the plantation banker culture is too powerful. Actually, believe it or not, who screwed you out of your rights basically are white women, okay? White women, people do not want to blame black feminists and white feminists for taking the rights away from black people. Okay, they won't admit to that. They'll never admit to that. Anyway, continuing.
Male living in subsidized housing. There was a very
Absolutely.
famous movie that came out at the time called Claudine, came out around 1973, I believe. That highlighted this problem. It was with Diane Carroll and James Earl Jones. That basically one of the main plot points was this woman who was trying to create a relationship with a man who was, she was a housekeeper, he was a garbage man, and she had a lot of different, about 4 or 5 children in her household, good boys and girls. But there was several scenes in that movie where every time a social worker would come out who was a white liberal woman, he either had to run out of the window or hide in the closet. That was something that
Yeah.
actually was documented at that time. Can you talk a little bit about benevolent, the benevolent malevolence of some of the white liberals who said they wanted to benefit black communities, but this is what ended up happening, the way it was implemented?
Well, look, I mean, but listen, these lots of the discussions around this period of time, around the absence of black men, was that it was forced, it was legislated, right? And here's what's crazy, right? So, in 1963, you had a report on the problems of Negro women. It was commissioned by under John F. Kennedy. Okay, in that report, Dorothy Hyatt was very clear that you could not protect black women unless you repaired the status of black men his position in the community. In the community. Now, remember, Moynihan comes about a few years later, right? 65. So what ends up happening in Moynihan is he completely overlooks the fact that black women are saying that black men and women are interdependent. He thinks that it's purely the structure. So what you've done is you've then introduced a policy that tries to keep black men separate from black women, and then have black women be completely reliant on the state for their livelihood and their livelihoods, right? So the effect of this policy was to remove father figures. It was
We don't use Zennial, okay? Either you're a millennial or you're Gen X, okay? If you're born after 1980, you're a millennial, okay? We don't use the bridge, okay?
to remove the idea that black men are viable members of the community. It was to increase the susceptibility that the black community had to negative stereotypes and associations of black masculinity and black maleness with deviance, right, and criminality. And it allowed us to talk about a black community without the need for black men. So this is why I'm always telling people that, and this is what I find interesting in the academy as well, is black people tend to have a much stronger tolerance for mythology as the guiding basis of research and interpretation than other groups of people. And what I mean by that specifically is that given the position that we've endured in the United States, there's a tendency that we have to internalize and think with negative stereotypes where we become exceptions to the rule rather than a general consolidation of positive value for the whole group. And this is particularly important in this case because black academics either are middle class or aspire to be middle class in the United States.
Very much so. And they aspire to black middle class or black upper middle class aspire to integrate into whiteness, okay? They do.
So as I talk about in the Man Not, there's this need to distance themselves from a problem population, which is what they see poor black men as. So in removing black men from households, they accept that's what's needed. They accept that the basis by which
Actually, they didn't move away from the black community because it's because King was still alive. And go back and read the Kerner Commission, sir. Okay, there's something that Craig Hewlett taught me way back in the '90s. Okay, uh, how do you squash a rebellion? Okay, called redress of grievances. Go back and read the Kerner Commission. Okay. You got a redress of grievances. Okay, they didn't go away from the black community. Okay, if that was the case, we would be back under Jim Crow. Okay, civil rights was pretty much settled after the Kerner Commission. All the stuff, most of the stuff that you asked for under civil rights was actually granted under what? The Kerner Commission. The thing is, guess who took the bulk of those goodies? Which is something we argue about, but nobody wants to admit. Okay, who took the bulk of the goodies? Okay, how did white women get to be classified as minorities and take up 85%, 83% of the goodies? How did that happen? They gave it to you. Okay, why do you think white women are crying about DEI?
we could better ourselves and actually have stable communities don't require black men. But that's not a conclusion on the basis.
Uh, Dr. Curry can. Well, this is as close as the to the manosphere as Dr. Curry's going to get. Okay, this is as close as he's going to get. which is through somebody like maybe like Dr. Dunbar or Terrain Walker. He's not going to come down to the manosphere proper. Okay, you can forget that. Okay, it would ruin his career. Okay, go back and read Pauli Murray. Okay, go back and look at the two Crows, Jane Crow and Jim Crow. Okay, go look up Pauli Murray and Jane Crow. That's where the shit comes from, and that's the shit that they used in 1963 and 64 to actually get sex into civil rights. That's the argument, and classify women, white women, as a minority. That's where it comes from. I always talk about the shift opening the door for it to even be possible, and eventually the following 4 years added more adjust that benefited women. Okay, the men, the white men per se actually fought against that. Okay, the thing is, what happened inside actually caused it. And guess who else championed that? Okay, did black men fight against it? No, they didn't. Well, I can care less why he doesn't, where he should distance himself or not. Okay, okay. The thing is, um, let's call a spade a spade. Okay, Dr. Curry would not be this famous if it wasn't for the black manosphere. Let's call a spade a spade. You're willing to take the boost that you get from the black manosphere and black men in the space, but the thing is, you don't want to come down and muck up your boots. Okay, let's call a spade a spade. He would not be where he is without the black manosphere. Thank you, Martin. So I understand, and basically, I understand that in their positions, they got to be protected from the black feminists and and academics. So we try to put a bubble around them anyway. But don't give me that bullshit about about him wanting to distance himself. No, he wants to get close enough to actually reap the benefits. Okay. That's what he wants to get close enough to reach the benefit, which terrain is a bridge to us. Okay, they know the fuck I'm playing this shit over my channel. Okay, if they had something against the black manosphere, terrain could just drop me an email. Hey man, don't put my stuff up. How come they don't? I'm in that bullshit. Y'all gonna make me cuss. Gotta remember, I talk to these people behind the scenes, man. I know what the fuck is going on. Okay. You think there's bullshit going on in the black manosphere? Try to get into black academics, man, and see the bullshit that goes on there. Okay, behind the scenes with them black women. You think there's a lot of mess going on here? Jump over the ivory tower, the ivory walls, and start going in and talk to black feminists and see all the bullshit going on over there. Okay. This is calm compared to what's going on over there, from what I'm hearing. Okay, why you think they try to run him out? Why you think he's in he's in Europe? Art News says, ask me how I know. Well, the thing is, who's in charge? Okay. Who's in charge of black academia? Y'all talking shit. Who's in charge of black academia? I'll give you one guess. Who's in charge? If you hear me, what the okay, yeah, okay. All right, VHS, you can come out for a second. If you hear me, what the fuck are you talking about? If you hear me. If you know, what the fuck are you talking about? In fact, the black academics have gotten far better reaction because of the black manosphere. Okay. A lot of them would not poke their heads up. Okay, now you have why do you think black male studies actually exist and is actually expanding? Is it because of them internally? No, it's because we're pushing from the outside. I don't hear that bullshit. Okay. Okay, Dr. T's got like 10 guys in black male studies that are actually getting their PhDs. And why? Directly because of this space. What the fuck you talking about? No, don't put him in timeout. He's all right. Because VH the very hostile seniors got the belt out. Okay, y'all don't want me to pull the belt out.
Of any sociological study or understanding, that's a conclusion based in the reality by which the poverty that black people suffered in and the state assistance that was offered to single mothers, single black mothers, comes with the caveat that black men have to be absent. So the question of black male absenteeism is not formulated purely on black male choice. It's formulated on state incentives that want black men to be absent. And this,
The law says there cannot be male support in the household. Okay. So if white men cannot, and some states actually tried to modify that back in the 60s, right? Okay, try to modify that, and they eliminated the law in the even though they still do it. Okay, state by state, they still frown upon males being in the household. They're not as strict, but they still frown upon it because in the white minds, okay, in the state's mind, why am I taking care of you when you have an able-bodied man? Yeah, Latinas went through the same shit. Okay, it's not a black. What I'm saying is, just like any other law, do black people get the brunt of it? Yeah. Okay, just like any other law, guns, anything else, black people get the brunt of it. But guess what? It's not a black rule. Because I thought the same shit till I looked it up. So, oh shit. Okay, it had nothing to do with us. Okay, they're following their rules. So yeah, I've seen what some feminist spaces look like and the kind of things they encourage for the sake of their agenda. Nothing like this happens here, even at the worst. Nope, not even close. Okay. Yeah, Pauli Murray. Okay. Yeah, Pauli Murray, Jane Crow. In fact, she wrote like 3 or 4 papers. Okay. About Jane Crow, and she was that came out, and she was actually pissed because she's actually a civil rights worker. Okay, with it when she was at Howard, and she was at Howard Law, and someplace she was at. I can't remember where she was at. But the thing is, she Pauli Murray's actually she's mixed, but she's a black lady. I think her father was actually either mixed or white. Can't remember which one. Okay, but. Pauli Murray's an elite, and basically she's been, I would say, Eleanor Roosevelt's side chick for she was actually Eleanor Roosevelt's side chick for like 30 years. Okay, on and off. Okay, so Pauli Murray had a lot of power, and if you look at the 40s, okay, right, like the post World War II era or the World War II post World War II era, okay, when women started to exercise more of their power, okay, that is rife with that kind of shit, man, rife with that. Anyhow, man, if you study Pauli Murray and Eleanor Roosevelt were pissed that they didn't get a prominent position in 1963 during the March on Washington. That's what really set her off. Okay, in '63. Anyhow, continuing.
play several roles.
You got to remember, Pauli Murray and Eleanor Roosevelt started now the National Organization of Women. They're the founders of it. Okay. That's how come white women, white feminist women look at Pauli Murray like a goddess. Ghostwriter says Taco Tax, appreciate you. Continuing.
It reinforces the structural poverty of the black community. And also, it takes away the idea that black men are active participants, or even could be participants, much less leaders, of black resistance against a system of white supremacy. So this is engineered. It's part of domestic colonization. It's part of the resocialization apparatus of the black community at large. And it solidifies the structural position that black men have had within black communities as being considered problems, deviants, and unworthy and useless to the overall health of our people. So
Dr. Curry wants to keep his head down, okay? If Dr. Curry wanted to be on O'Shea Duke Jackson or Angry Man or even, what's his name, Mediocre Tutorials and Reviews, okay? He's got 1 million subscribers, okay? He could do that. He could do that if he wanted to. He, he's actually been on Dr. Dunbar's channel, okay? He's been on Dr. Dunbar's channel. He prefers to keep his head down. There's a lot of, he could be on Dennis's platform. There's a lot of places he could go.
I think we have to be very careful when we talk about these kinds of histories without having a critical eye.
He's cautious. Doctor, you got to remember. I'll say this. There's no slight against him. Okay, he does political calculations, and the thing is, he's got to balance the white world and the white academic world and the black academic world against us. Okay, you got to do that calculations. Okay, and that's like I applaud Dr. T and Dr. Neal and Dr. Thunder and those kind of people is because they put their PhDs on the line for us. Okay, so we applaud them. That's why we hold them in such high reverence. Is because they took the risk. Okay, Dr. Neal damn near lost his job behind the Ice Cube effect. Okay. They had to go fight them is because they traced the Ice Cube effect back to him. That's like when we publicly disavow Dr. Ronald Neal, right? Because we actually want to put a barrier between him and us. It's because we want them to keep their jobs and keep their livelihood and keep their professions, right? Okay. In other words, okay, you don't know what they're academics; they're not part of us. Okay, so we try to keep the academics in their own bubble. Anyway, continuing.
Just to do a little house cleaning. First of all, thank you for tuning in to the Black Male Study Sessions. The Black Male Study Sessions is sponsored by the African American Men's Historical Society. AMHIS is the Black American Men's Intellectual Society focused on the preservation, history, and empowerment of Black men. Go to amhis.org to learn more and visit their Substack at amhis.
I thought you hosted him, Dr. Dunbar. I thought he was on your panel.
s.substack.com. Dr. Curry, I want to dive a little bit deeper into what you just said. You mentioned the fact that some of these policies were put in place to basically remove Black men from the family structure and also remove them from being in positions of power or even being in positions of resistance or potential resistance. Mm-hmm. Can you open that up a little bit more and talk a little bit about why that was so important?
Well, I mean, I think it was important for a lot of different reasons. I mean, the most obvious, and this is what current research talks about, is the economic stability of Black households. Black men are major contributors to the economic stability of Black households. I think politically, though, there's a larger point there, considering what we know Dorothy Hyatt was discussing, in her report in '63, right? Hyatt thought that the Black community could only advance if Black men were considered important to it, if they weren't seen as street men, so to speak, that they were active roles of fathers, husbands, and they play a role in the political future and contributions of the whole society. You see, in the mid-1960s, there was not the same idea that we have today, right? You didn't have Black female leaders necessarily saying that to be a Black man meant you were patriarchal. This is a post-1970s, 1980s kind of rhetoric, because previously to that, before Black feminism, you can't find a quote in any social scientific document, or even, I don't even find a mention of it. And I've been researching this for.
And that's a 1980s idea. That's that is post Color Purple, okay, for the most part.
Almost a decade of Black men being referred to as patriarchs. So it means that the association with male domination and Black males is a relatively recent invention.
The only place you see You see a patriarchal leaning thing toward uh, uh, um, idea is coming from Pauli Murray with Jane Crow. That's where the intersectionalism actually came. Okay, is because within the black community they saw black men uh, uh, exuding masculine power against black women, and especially amongst the black elite, black male elite. Okay, um, they excluded women out of that. That's where it comes from. It comes from Pauli Murray and her experience in Howard Law School. Okay, is because even though she was allowed in, it was actually a boys' club. There's some things she was not allowed to participate in, and the same thing with civil rights. Okay, there's some things that women were not allowed to participate in, and that's where the patriarchal idea that black men were actually failed patriarchs actually came from. That's a Jane Crow. Uh, that's a Jane Crow um, argument. So it is there. But the things you have to look for it in certain places.
Of academics and not of black actors, be they male or female. Given that reality, the removal of black men from households, right, functions as a way to consolidate the power of white supremacy because there's no messaging of resistance, there's no messaging of dissent coming from black men. And I think that that explains not only the reasons that we have such negative views about black men that we're currently fighting today, but it also explains the proliferation of a certain kind of black feminist ideology among middle class black people that can't really be explained in the uptake of feminist ideology by other groups. So take, for example, this, right?
That's an ongoing idea that black men are failed patriarchs. Okay, um, and it started with Pauli Murray. Okay, that the way I saw it. Okay, and that 1940s idea of black so-called the inkling of black feminism. Okay, that's really the start of black feminism in the 1940s with Pauli Murray, and I think of Ann something else. I can't remember her last name. Okay, there's a whole bunch of black female writers, feminist writers in the 1940s that started this whole kind of collective. Anyway, I'm going to go a few more minutes and then we're going to wrap up because we're at an hour and 30 minutes. I probably ran it a little bit too much, and I only got about halfway through this. So, like I said, there's a lot of stuff in here there's stuff in here that I agree with, but there's a lot of stances with Dr. Curry that I actually disagree with. Okay. Pauli Murray's dad was definitely a black man. He was a teacher who loved the community. Later, he was sadly institutionalized. He went crazy. Okay. I said he's probably mixed. Okay. Pauli Murray is probably mixed because I think her dad was mixed. Okay. Because she has a white lineage. So he was either mixed or black, but I think he's mixed. Okay. Very enlightening and very instructive. Okay. They were Pauli Murray and the family were actually black bourgeoisie. Okay. Anyhow, we get a few more minutes and then we're gonna get out of here because we're at an hour and a half.
When anytime that we talk about black people, and we mean this academically in activist spaces on social media, the first kind of interpretive lens that's presented is black feminism. Now think about this. When we have any other conversation in the world, even about women, in a majority white society, white people don't necessarily start with feminism.
Uh, you know, me and Tommy and critiques. Me and Dr. Curry and critiques. I'm not gonna call him by his first. I'm gonna give him his title. Me and Dr. Curry and we have an interesting relationship. Okay, I am not one of his favorite people. Let's put it that way. Not really. She wasn't a wedge. She was bitter about some things, and she had solid beliefs about some things. But she was at the forefront of civil rights. Okay, she was at the forefront of civil rights. In fact, there's a lot of things, a lot of protests, a lot of things that Pauli Murray actually went down and helped. I think there was this case about trying to save the life of this black farmer who was on death row. Okay, Polly Murray risked her life to actually go down and actually save that man. So basically, Polly Murray is a very complex character. Okay, she wanted the freedom for all for her whole race, not just black women. Okay, but was she crazy? Yeah, she had a whole lot of issues because she thought she was a man. There's a whole bunch of stuff that Pauli Murray had. She was in love with white women, but that's beside the point. Okay, but the thing is, uh, regardless of what we think about Pauli Murray, she was deeply embedded in civil rights. Okay, she was. The BGS not. Go. You don't have to believe me, man. They've written like 2 books on her. Um, you can read her papers and stuff like that. Her bio is very interesting. Okay, she's a very complex character. She's not fitting her into a box is very difficult. She probably was closer to a female James Baldwin. She really was. Okay.
They could start with economic problems. They can start with political underrepresentation. They could start with, God knows, international relations. There's tons of different things that affect how the dominant group interpret their reality. But with black people, it's almost always single-minded. It's a question of how black men perform, how black men participate, and how black men can be blamed or put in antagonistic relationship with black women. And we saw this completely during the period of the election with Donald Trump. Even when black men were overwhelmingly supportive of a Democratic president or candidate, though I don't necessarily think they should have been, they were blamed as supporting Trump.
Where you think that comes from? Okay, where you think that comes from? I would say this about Polly. I would say this about Polly Murray and civil rights and stuff like that. Okay, in my opinion, what I've read of her, and I've been reading a lot of Polly Murray stuff over the past year and a half, maybe 2 years. Okay, is that Polly Murray probably had too much faith in white women. She thought that white women had the same kind of opinion that black women had toward black men. Okay, that white women would take over society and make it a fair and just society. She wanted white men. She wanted feminists to actually take over the whole society and run it fairly, because she thought women were more just than white men. She was wrong. Okay. Said BGS spent December in Kenya for Christmas presents. I asked for Kiswahili books. Okay, cool, man. Um, Look up. There's one good program called Swahili Pod 101. It's actually very good. Okay, if you actually want to learn Swahili, that's probably the best language learning program for Swahili. But Swahili grammar, man, oh my God. Okay. Swahili grammar makes English grammar look like it is kindergarten. Okay. Swahili grammar, the words are simple. Pronouncing the words are simple. The words are simple, straightforward. But that grammar, when they mix that shit up, man, man. Anyhow, what Trump was actually a default. Okay. People talk about Trump like Trump is the worst thing. Trump is actually a default. Okay. But that is on the level of the politics that they understand. Trump is a default. Trump is because the Democratic Party committed suicide for the most part. Anyhow, let me get out of here. Oh yeah, Arabic language background. Okay. Oh man, the grammar is killing me. It's killing me when you learn the words. You try to go back and read it and try to find uh, the meaning of the words inside the sentence. Okay, translating Swahili to English is not straightforward. It's not straightforward at all. Because I know the word I want to use, I know the group of words I want to use. I had to go back and check the grammar, and that shit never winds up to where I think it's gonna wind up, man. Where the fuck this word come from, man? You know, and the way they use uh, uh, the way they use the what you call it at the beginning, okay? Nina and Nay and stuff like that, and use the key and K and Ni and stuff like that, depending on the words after it, okay? Ah, man, there's got to be Swahili must have at least 50 different grammar rules, at least 50, as far as forming words and compound words, man. The shit doesn't make sense when you just add a plural. And then we put an S on the end, and maybe an IES as a qualifier, right, man? That in Swahili with the V and the key and the knee and all that kind of stuff, man. Trying to make a compound word or try to make an ED and stuff like that. That shit does not look anything translatable to English, man. It's tough. We just all white women are bad for black men. I didn't say white women are bad. Okay, the thing is the system. Okay. I didn't say white women are bad for black men, yada yada yada. Okay, that's a whole different. Um, White women are always dangerous to black men because white women know they hold. That's how come they like black men because they hold the power. They don't hold the power against white men. The Song of Weary Hearts, one of them. Yeah. Anyhow, let me get out of here, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Go to the terrain site. Okay, I've done like 10 of these. Everybody should know where terrain's site is. Okay, everybody should already know it.
And they definitely should have supported him. So the view.
Everybody should know where terrain's channel is. Go to terrain's channel. Okay, and watch the rest of it. And I will see you guys later. No, it was not forced on uniquely on black women. Okay, it was not uniquely enforced on black women. Guess who the woman was that the Supreme Court killed the man in the house rule? She was white. Okay? Go back and read it. Man in the house rules existed way before black women actually got AFDC. Okay? Black women didn't get AFDC till like 20, 25 years later. Because they said black women were a part of the labor force. They did. It's because black women led the household and were actually financed the household. They didn't need AFDC. AFDC was for white women. Man and house rule is not uniquely laid upon black women. Okay, white women went through the same shit. You just don't hear about it. I don't care what you people uniquely eyeballed. Okay, go look at the law. Look at the fucking law. Global Brain by Howard Bloom is good, but also his first book is even better, which is Lucifer Principle. Okay, Howard Bloom is very good at translating neuroscience. Anyhow, let me get out of here. Yeah, what is Gilly's book? In fact, it's like a 500-page book on child support. Man, she goes through all that shit. Go back and look at the fucking law, man. Y'all don't read, okay? Go look at the especially the southern states refusal to actually give black women AFDC. Go back and look. Black women didn't get AFDC until the late 1950s because it was because the states wouldn't give it to them. Go look it up. I'm not telling you anything. I'm not telling you. I'm not telling you anything that I haven't read. Go look that shit up. You're arguing with me about something that you haven't read. Go look up the law. I mean, white women. It is funny, okay. And in fact, the Congress thought it was funny until Eleanor Roosevelt and Democrats laid into them, and they in '65 they try to remove it, okay. Why do you think Trump stripped all that shit back to the back to 1965 as far as executive orders, okay? Okay, he wanted to take white women, get rid of affirmative action for white women, and go back to the basic law. Anyhow, let's get out of here. Sometimes you got to put the VHS in the VCR. I'm telling you where to go read this shit, man. I'm telling you where to go look at it. I'm quoting out of a documented book, and this chick actually worked for Bill Clinton when they actually reformed welfare. Okay, in '96, and she's out of Minnesota. Anyhow, y'all, let me get out of here, and I'll see you guys later. Well, this is one reason why I don't like, I don't mind going through it, but the thing is, one reason I don't like going through it with people that haven't read. Okay. I don't like going through this kind of stuff with people that haven't read, and they start they be talking out of their ass. Okay. Let me get out of here. Let me give you the African.
And with that, I just have two more words to say. Obama out.
Музыка Денис Шедер.